Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Continuing with the 6-part vlog series about my trip to Egypt. This is part 5, Luxor. Woke up in Luxor, Hotel Pavilion Winter. Looking forward to a great day ahead. Started the day with a nice breakfast. Afterwards, I went out for my first tour of the day. Our first stop, the great Luxor Temple. Here are some interesting facts about Luxor and Luxor Temple. Luxor once was known as Thebes, was the capital of Egypt during the New Kingdom, 1550 to 1070 BCE, the golden age of pharaohs. It was both political seat and the religious heart of the kingdom, especially devoted to the worship of Amun, the king of gods. At the center of this great city stands the Luxor Temple, built around 1400 BCE, begun by Amenhotep III and later expanded by Ramses II. The temple was dedicated to the Theban triad Amun, his wife Mat, goddess of motherhood, and their son Khonshu, the moon god. Unlike many other temples, Luxor Temple was not just for worship but played a key role in grand Opet festival where the bond between Pharaoh and the gods were renewed. And here is something really fascinating. So this was a chapel built for Alexander the Great, who was crowned as the pharaoh after conquering Egypt in 332 BCE. On these walls, you will see him shown just like a traditional pharaoh, making offerings to the gods. It was his way of honoring the traditions of Thebes and securing his place as a rightful ruler in the eyes of Egyptians. This is the ancient processional avenue that once linked Luxor Temple to Karnak Temple, which will go later. During festivals, the priests carried the sacred bark of Amun along this pathway, bringing the god from Karnak to Luxor in a grand ceremony. Walking here today feels like stepping right into the footsteps of ancient rituals. The bark that you see here at Luxor Temple is a replica. The original one is currently preserved in Louvre Museum, Paris. This goes up to the Karnak Temple. That's the gate of Karnak. They used to carry the boat onto the Luxor Temple and then use the river Nile to downflow up to Karnak, go back to Karnak. And the whole place is guarded by the Sphinx. And this is a model of the boat. That was all from Luxor Temple. Next stop, the Karnak. Karnak wasn't just a temple, it was the largest religious complex in ancient Egypt and the spiritual heart of Thebes. Construction began around 2000 BCE and continued over 1500 years with contributions from pharaohs like Senusret I, Hatshepsut, Thutmose III, Seti I, and Ramses II. The main temple was dedicated to Amun-Ra, but also honored his wife Mut and their son Khonshu. Visitors today can see iconic structures like Hypostyle Hall with massive columns, towering obelisk of Hatshepsut, and beautifully decorated pylons. Karnak hosted grand festivals like Opet Festival and symbolized power, wealth, and religious devotion of ancient Egypt. And this is the iconic Hypostyle Hall, 134. Massive columns, each covered in ancient carvings that survived over 3000 years. These two obelisks were commissioned by Queen Hatshepsut, who ruled as a pharaoh around 1470 BCE and were dedicated to Amun-Ra, carved from single blocks of red granite. They symbolized her divine power. This is the scarab statue of Khepri, the god of rebirth and the rising sun. Ancient Egyptians believed rolling the scarab symbolically across the ground would bring good luck and renewal. Many visitors today even circle it 7 times to ensure fortune and blessings. This is the temple of Khonshu, the moon god, and son of Amun and Mut. It was built mainly by Ramses III during the New Kingdom and later expanded by other pharaohs. Though smaller than Karnak's main temples, it's beautifully preserved and shows the importance of Khonshu in Theban triad. This is the small mortuary temple of Ramses III. You can see the statues of the pharaoh lined on both sides of the entrance, dedicated to Amun and the Theban triad. Ramses III's main and much larger mortuary temple is Medina Tabu, which we visited before. That was all from Karnak Temple. Next up, we went out to see how a papyrus was made. Papyrus was the ancient Egyptian paper crafted from papyrus plant that grew along the Nile. The stalks were cut into stripes, soaked, and then layered in layers and pressed until they fused into smooth sheets. Egyptians used it for scrolls, official records, and sacred text, and it also symbolized life and growth from Nile. This is how the final product looks like. I bought a few papyrus scroll as a souvenir. On one of them there was a drawing of scarab and they wrote my name in hieroglyphics. Next stop, Valley of the Kings and Queens. This was the house where Howard Carter stayed when he discovered Tutankhamun's tomb. Some history about the Valley of the Kings and Queens. The Valley of the Kings lies on the west bank of Luxor, and it was used as a royal burial ground during New Kingdom. Starting around 16th century BC, instead of pyramids, pharaohs built hidden tombs deep into the cliffs to protect them from tomb robbers. More than 60 tombs are here, including those of famous rulers like Ramses II, Seti I, and the boy king Tutankhamun. The valley was rediscovered by modern archaeology in the 18th and 19th century, with Howard Carter's discovery of Tutankhamun's intact tomb in 1922 making it world famous. After reaching there, one by one I started exploring some of the popular tombs. First, I checked out the tomb of Ramses IV. Ramses IV, son of Ramses III, ruled briefly in 12th century BCE, and it's best remembered for commissioning one of the largest tombs in the Valley of the Kings, richly decorated with detailed astronomical scenes. Inside these tombs, the walls are covered with bright hieroglyphics and paintings that tell the story of Pharaoh's journey to the afterlife. Every ritual was meant to help the soul pass the trials and reach eternal life. Mummification itself was deeply religious. Egyptians believed preserving the body was essential so that the Ka, which is spirit, could recognize it and live forever. That's why the tombs were filled with treasures, food, and protective amulets to serve the king in the afterlife. On to the next tomb. We arrived at the tomb of Menemptah. Menemptah, the 13th son of Ramses II, ruled Egypt in the late 13th century BCE. His tomb in the Valley of the Kings is notable for its well-preserved wall reliefs and inscriptions, including the famous Menemptah's Tale. The tomb reflects both his royal authority and the religious traditions ensuring Pharaoh's journey to afterlife. The tomb that you see here is a shallow tomb or a fake tomb. It was built to trick the robbers, while the real burial chamber lies deep below. Next up, the big one, Tomb of King Tut, Tutankhamun. King Tutankhamun or King Tut became pharaoh at just 9 years old in 1332 BCE. His tiny tomb, hidden deep in the Valley of the Kings, remained untouched for centuries. In Valley of the Kings, none of these tombs in display has the mummy inside it. Most of these mummies have been moved to National Museum of Egyptian Civilization, but only in Tutankhamun's tomb you will get to see actual Tutankhamun's mummy. Tutankhamun's tomb was discovered by Howard Carter in 1922. Inside, Carter found an extraordinary collection of treasures. Tut's iconic gold funerary mask, gilded coffins, chariots, thrones, jewelry, ceremonial weapons, and beautifully decorated furniture. Remarkably, his tomb escaped the looters, giving the world a rare, almost magical glimpse into the wealth and artistry of ancient Egypt. Next up, Tomb of Ramses III. Ramses III ruled Egypt from 1186 to 1155 BCE. He is remembered as the last great pharaoh of New Kingdom, defending Egypt from invasions and strengthening its economy. His mortuary temple at Medinet Habu and his tomb in the Valley of the Kings are highly significant. The tomb is richly decorated with vivid reliefs depicting battles, religious rituals, and funerary texts, reflecting both his power and his religious beliefs of that time. It's one of the best preserved royal tombs, giving a remarkable glimpse into the artistry and spiritual life of ancient Egypt. And that wraps up our visit to Valley of the Kings, an unforgettable journey through thousands of years of Egyptian history. We arrived at our next iconic spot, Mortuary Temple of Queen Hatshepsut. Queen Hatshepsut was one of ancient Egypt's few female pharaohs ruling during the 18th dynasty around 1479 to 1458 BCE. She took on the full powers of a pharaoh, commissioning grand building projects and expanding trades, all while portraying herself in traditional royal regalia. Her mortuary temple at Dir el-Bahari, perched dramatically against the cliffs on Luxor's west bank, was designed to honor Amun and serve as her eternal resting place. The temple features terraced colonnades, beautiful reliefs depicting her divine birth and trading expeditions, and chapels for gods. Hatshepsut's mummy, though, was discovered much later in the Valley of the Kings, where she was reburied among other pharaohs. Hatshepsut was reburied because after her death, her stepson Thutmose III sought to erase her legacy. Many of her monuments and images were defaced, and her body was moved from its original tomb to hidden location in the Valley of the Kings to protect it for desecration. That was all from Temple of Hatshepsut. Next up, Colossi of Memnon. These massive stone statues are of Pharaoh Amenhotep III, built around 1350 BCE to guard his mortuary temple on the west bank of Luxor. After that, I went back to my hotel. And after a long eventful day, ordered room service for a late lunch. Then I just spent rest of the time in Luxor at my hotel resting because I had a late evening flight that day to Giza, my last stop and one of the big ones. And that was all from Luxor. Next up, Giza and the pyramids. Thanks for watching. This is the end of part 5 of the 6-part vlog series of my trip to Egypt. Also check out other parts.